5, 4, 3,
2.
You don't have to live with pain or chronic neuro issues any longer. In this podcast, you will learn how to stabilize your brain, body, and biochemistry for the rest of your life. I'm Dr. Teams, and this is the NeuroReset Podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the NeuroReset Podcast. I am Dr. Teams at Desert Brain and Spine. We are filming on site here. Make sure you guys take a look at some of our old podcasts if you're looking for concussion stories, dysautonomia, POTS, disc cases, and like maybe, trying to avoid surgery and stuff like that. But we have a very special guest with us today. We have Mallory. She's a former patient because she's essentially graduated from our program, and she was put through the ringer. And there were a few things said in our initial appointment that I will never forget. And here we are today. So this ultimately is to try to help other people out there understand that there are options for people dealing with dysautonomia,
Absolutely.
Any autoimmune issues, things like that. And you can share anything that you feel comfortable sharing, and the world will know.
Yeah, there's hope. There is help. There is hope. When I came in, I was really at a place where I had lost hope. This was going to be my final stop to try to get somebody to listen to what my body was doing and try to help me get my life back where I could work and where I could function and where I could feel better about myself.
And do you remember what you said to me in that first appointment?
I do.
It was very similar to that. Do you remember?
I do. I remember verbatim. I said, I hope you can help me because this is my last stop. I'm ready to give up.
Yeah. And so it's not the first time we've heard that. There are certain systems that are designed to give people what they need. There's other systems that are designed to carry out the system.
Right.
Right. And
right.
It is what it is. Unfortunately, it takes a lot of people a long time to find us.
Like my husband said, you were the only doctor that was actually offering help, actually offering tools that I could use to find some resolution to what I was going through.
Yeah.
Every other doctor will give you a prescription and they will give you an endless amount of tests or referrals, but you were the only doctor that had actual answers to make it better.
And, we work real hard to try to give that to people, and we're very honest, when we see things that we can help, we tell you. If we don't see anything that we can help, it's like, hey, you know what, this might not be the place for you. In fact, we had to tell someone that last night.
Oh,
It's just it's not something that we are really, really proficient at. And so we had to tell them, this is our wheelhouse, this dysautonomia, POTS world, anxiety, brain fog, lightheadedness, dizziness, digestive issues, tingling, numbness, fatigue, insomnia.
It's helped absolutely every single thing that you mentioned. Absolutely every single thing.
So what exactly were you dealing with prior to coming to see us? And how long was it going on?
I had been dealing with seizures for 13 years. Non-epileptic seizures. They didn't show anything on MRI reports. So there was no medication or anything that I could do to treat it, and I had to make some adjustments to lifestyle. But even doing that, I still felt like my system was in that fight or flight mode where I was always sick. I was always tired. I felt like I could not recuperate. So when I came in here, I was excited because you looked right at me and you said, I can help you. And my husband and I were speaking when we left, and he said, there's something about that guy. I trust him. And I said, I do too. I said, and I'm hopeful now. I'm hopeful. And I had lost all hope before that. I mean, you guys saved my life. You and your team saved my life.
That is so
And my
awesome.
husband knows it and agrees too.
I love it. And he can finally go to sleep in the mornings when he gets home from work now, right?
He does. He can sleep better. He's not worrying about me. He's not coming home on every work break to check on me. So it's relieved a lot of stress, not only for myself, but for him.
Yeah. That's so awesome. So
what was life like? What was function like before we met? What were some of the hurdles you went through with other practitioners and things like that?
Not having things charted properly, just being completely overlooked, asking questions and them not being answered. Just felt like I was being shuffled around. After 13 years, you wonder if there's any help at all or if there's just explanations to things that aren't going to help you.
So did you meet any docs along the way or practitioners along the way that did help you?
I'm sorry, I'm really trying to think, but no. They all sent me to another doctor. They all had me do more tests. None of them properly diagnosed me. I had to do the research myself and come in here and ask Dr. Teams, is this what, I think this is what's wrong with me. Is this what it is? And he was able in just a few minutes to say yes, and we can help you. And that was so reassuring because I had researched for years and years and years and gone from neurologist to neurologist and been completely discriminated against. And I mean, to the point I'd have a seizure in the lobby and then they tell me I'm fine and send me home.
Are you serious?
That was
I didn't know that happened.
That was borrow.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So,
Interesting.
I
So
mean,
there,
big places that you think you can count on that will take a deeper look, and they didn't. They didn't take a deeper look. They didn't help me. They just said it's emotional stress, and I said, well, everybody has emotional stress, but
why am I
I'm
having
able to
seizures
deal with
because
mine
of it?
actually pretty well. So why is this affecting me? Why am I constipated? Why am I irritable? Why can I not sleep? Why is my hair falling out? Why? Just constant, endless things that I had to deal with. And coming here helped me with absolutely every single thing that I just mentioned.
Wow. Well, I mean, kudos, right? I guess that's so funny story. when Mattie started, it's like 2 weeks in, I want to say, and she was already feeling a difference within the first week, right? I want to say you started seeing glimmers of like hope come in, of like functional changes,
Yes.
right? You're
Yes.
still, I can't remember what level of function were you at when you came in? Do you remember, like percentage wise?
On like 1 to 100,
Yeah,
I was bad, doc. Like I was like functioning at like 30% probably.
because you weren't working at that time.
I wasn't. I was not able to work.
How long had it been since you'd worked at that point?
A couple months.
Yeah.
A couple months because I had been blacking out when I was doing photography, or I'd go outside and I couldn't control my temperature or control my body to not be in that fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
So it helped me get back to the treatment here. Helped me get back to work. It helped me get back to being able to do what I love.
Yeah, that's awesome. So she comes in, and she's being very serious and professional right now, but she's super goofy when she's in the office and laughing and having a good time and just chatting it up with everybody. So everybody loved having her in the office. Well, it was like week 2, and she's like, "Hey, doc, I'm ready for more." And I'm like, "What do you mean? This is like week 2, and you have like POTS and dysautonomia and all this other stuff going on. Like, you shouldn't be
Pushing it.
moving this fast, right?" So let's review a few things. So usually we'll give people home exercises, right? So we'll give you exercise to do multiple times a day, and you were doing everything just once a day, right?
I was, yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, well, why don't we start doing things multiple times a day?" And because we have an email list essentially of all of our exercises, we just email those out. Reps and sets are at the bottom of that, and it's very specific for what you need. So I can't just send them out to people, but with your case, we knew exactly what you needed. So we send those out, and I think we just missed that, and that's okay. But then we said, "Hey, why don't we do these multiple times a day? Let's go 3 times a day," right? And the next time you came in, you're like, "Okay, that's enough. That's plenty of exercise for me. I don't think I can handle anything more than that." Do you remember that?
I was like, I'm good. I was like, yeah. You're like, do you want more? And I was like, no, I'm good.
No, I'm good.
I was like, I'm doing good now. Thanks.
Yeah, doing just fine. And so what was different about what we did here compared to what you'd experienced for the 13 years prior?
The difference about coming here was that they listened to the actual symptoms I was having and they were able to figure out why I was having those symptoms and then address it with the different exercises and the specific things that would help me.
Yeah. So what kinds of things did we actually do that you were like, this is weird, but it's working?
The figure eights were I thought, oh, there's no way I can do this and this is going to help. This is so silly. But I said, I trust Dr. Team, so I'm going to do this. And I did it, and the breathing helped tremendously.
Yeah.
I was constipated every day. I know that's not fun to talk about, but people deal with it.
Yeah.
And the breathing, I noticed I was able to be regular. And I did miss something in the beginning, like the email, because I had, like you said, I was functioning at 30%. I had closed out so many other parts of my life.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, a little after week 2, just into week 3, I came in one day and I said, I have to tell you, Doc, I walked out yesterday and it was like someone turned the light on, like there's a whole world out there.
Yep, I remember that.
And I noticed everything beyond just what was right in front of me because I was able to process it. Mm-hmm. And it was like I woke up.
And you know, there's a lot of people out there that are doing the same thing. Like they, you know, if you're watching the video, one hand is kind of your fight or flight or kind of the stress system, right? The other side is our tolerance system. So the world has this stressor that goes up and down, depends on what day it is, time it is, things are going on. And then we have tolerance on the other side. So if that stressor is below that tolerance, we'll be asymptomatic, right?
Right.
So generally, most of us are born, when we're born, we have a high tolerance, right? If you're subject to, say, something like trauma or abuse, that tolerance is going to be lower because your fight or flight system is higher. Right? On the flip side, if everything's peachy and your tolerance is high, you'll be able to tolerate stressors very well. When people get in here, usually their function is anywhere between usually 30 and 70%. You're at that 30%. Some people are down around 10. So your tolerance is down here at 30%, but the world keeps doing its thing.
Yes.
So what do you guys have to do? You have to decrease your world so that it fits within your tolerance.
Absolutely.
And that is so
absolutely
unfortunate that people have to do that. And you have to do that over the course of years, right? So every year it decreases by like 5%.
It was decreasing the activity that I could do with my husband, the things that I could do with my dogs, just taking them for walks. Working.
Social events.
I didn't do any social events. I left my time specifically for working. I would take the day before work off. I would work that day, and then I would have to take the following day or 2 days off following that in order to recuperate.
Just toast.
Yeah.
Right.
So for one day of work, I would have to take 3 to 4 days out of my life.
That sucks.
It was exhausting.
Oof.
It was exhausting, and I felt like I was not getting anywhere. I felt like I was just digging a hole.
You're just existing.
Yeah.
Man.
Just surviving.
And that's a key word, that surviving. You know, in the beginning, I tend to talk with people about both Dr. Rachel and Rihanna and Jess, and everybody. Like, we know when people walk in here, generally they're just surviving, right? You do things differently when you're surviving than when you're thriving.
Absolutely.
Right? And so our main goal is to try to get their system to work together well enough. And now I'm starting to use the analogy of the bad news bears, right? Like, we didn't give you new parts.
Right.
We just helped reintegrate and strengthen the parts and the systems that you do have.
You helped them work.
Right.
They were basically not working.
So,
you switched it completely and tried to re-energize it so it could start working again.
Yeah. So, like, when people come in here, when you're at 30% function, you almost always have a fight or flight system that's too high, right? Our fight or flight or freeze system is the one that protects us. That's survival mode. The flip side, rest, digest, and repair, right? If those two systems are too far opposing each other, right, too high on the fight or flight, by default, the rest and digest is going to be too low. Right?
Yeah,
and so
that makes sense.
But the thing that most people don't understand is the body is designed to heal itself.
It is. The body's an incredible thing.
It's so amazing. So when you put it in a place where it can do what it's supposed to do, it does its job, right?
Right.
But so many people are driven to that brink of system failure because that fight or flight system's so high that they literally cannot repair, right? So one of the things, and we've touched on the labs that what we kind of talked about, is when you're in fight or flight for a short term, that's normal, right? You have an argument, you're in a car accident, you have a physical altercation with someone. That's normal. That's designed to save you because you're in a survival mechanism or in a survival situation. After that, it's supposed to drop back down more to the normal ebb and flow of your day to day.
Right, so that you can
So
survive
you can
and
heal,
you're not sick.
right? You can repair your system and heal, right?
Exactly.
Kind of like working out. You go and break down muscle and then you repair it when you're sleeping. Same kind of
thing.
difference. But so many people are in that fight or flight mode that they literally cannot repair themselves.
And I
So,
couldn't.
and it just keeps going downhill for 13 years, right? It kept getting worse and worse to the
Right,
point
it
where you
did.
couldn't work.
It did. It progressively got worse. And then as I went through treatment here, and I was doing better. I was taking less medications. I didn't feel like I needed them anymore, which was wonderful because the medications can cause so many side effects that are terrible to deal with when you're already sick anyways.
Yep.
And after completing my treatment here, thank God, I went back to my rheumatologist and we redid my labs, and she said that she had never seen my inflammation markers that low. And it was because, exactly like you were saying, I was able to get out of a fight or flight mode so that I could heal.
Yeah. So kind of what we're saying is if you're in fight or flight, you're going to be inflamed.
Yes, absolutely.
Long term. If you're in it long term, you're without a doubt going to be inflamed.
Chronic
because
inflammation.
the rest and digest system is designed to repair. It's anti-inflammatory in nature, right?
Yep.
These are very simple terms, but very easy to understand. If you're in fight or flight mode, right? If your system is just cranking, you're like, I feel like I'm in fight or flight all the time. By default, you're not going to be able to repair very well, and you're going to be inflamed. Chronic inflammation, or
Absolutely.
like you described.
Chronic inflammation, chronic fatigue, not being able to recapture energy, like no rest and repair.
Right. The other thing is blood flow, right? Our fight or flight system is designed to constrict all of our blood vessels, but when we start running from a bear, it dilates those vessels to all
Lets
the
it all
things that
go,
are
yes.
being used, right? So it's going to be your arms and legs that are dilating when you're using them. You're not using digestion. You're not using your, I wonder if my meeting tomorrow is still going on or not to sell this program or whatever, right? Or is my meeting with this photography still up in Prescott or whatever, right? You can't think about that. So memory goes.
It does, and you
Right.
can't function. You don't
You just
remember
can't do it.
anything. You have no recall. You can't remember people's names, and that makes it really hard to
run a
to run a
business.
business
Yeah,
if you can't
absolutely.
remember somebody's name or properly greet them. Your cognition's off, your memory, everything's going to be impaired when
Yep.
you're in that horrible fight or flight mode.
So when we talk about like memory, cognition, all that, that's all of that is mostly frontal lobe, right? So our memory is our temporal lobe and our hippocampus. That's long-term memory. But we have to be able to get short-term memory into long-term memory. That's called working memory. So our frontal lobe has to be able to focus and attend to what's happening in front of us so that we can commit it to long-term memory. So many people that come in here have these memory-related issues because they can't focus and attend on most things.
Yeah.
Because the front part of the brain's not working. That's the frontal and prefrontal system. And in all honesty, that frontal and prefrontal system are so important to regulating your autonomic nervous system or the fight or flight, because to keep it simple, that frontal and prefrontal system stop working when stress is involved.
Okay.
It shuts off.
Yeah.
Right? Because if the frontal and prefrontal is associated with the rest and digest, like cool as a cucumber, right? Repair and everything, focusing, attending, memory, thriving, what I call kind of like happy hour, right?
Yeah.
Everybody loves happy hour.
when you're living.
But when you're surviving, you're not getting blood flow to the front part of your brain like you should. You're not getting blood flow to your limbs, your digestion, right? And so people show up with tingling and numbness in their hands and their feet, and they don't have pinched nerves.
Right.
They have lack of blood flow chronically to
Yeah.
that part of the body, right? So a lot of people these days, they're sitting down at a computer, like whether editing or just they're working away
Yeah.
from home. There's like literally no threat at the house. There's no bear, there's no lion, there's no wolf attacking them. There's no intruder breaking into their house. The house is not on fire, but they're in a fight or flight response. So they're going to get all that constriction of their vessels, but because they're not running from a bear, they're not going to get any dilation.
So that's why it makes you sick.
That's why it makes you feel like brain foggy and dizzy, because you're not getting blood flow to the areas of the brain that provide clarity. That's why you can't remember stuff from a day-to-day or remember names of the people you're going to work with, because that front part of the brain can't do its focusing and attending and pull from the memory centers to say, hey, Tom, how you doing? How was that game you went to last week?
Right. Make that personal connection.
Exactly. On the flip side, there's basic sensors in the system, like in our carotid arteries, that are pressure receptors. So when people stand up, all their blood drops to their feet, and that pressure sensor that then coordinates with the brainstem or the lower brainstem doesn't activate appropriately, so then you get dizzy and maybe pass out. I just saw one today.
Oh, wow.
She basically almost passes out 12 times a day.
But she won't be here soon, watch.
I hope.
I know she won't. I know she won't.
It's crazy how often and how common this condition of like dysautonomia is, right? So dysautonomia, if we think of it this way, on our end, your fight or flight and your rest and digest systems are not functioning properly.
Exactly.
If we expand that, usually the front part of the brain is not working or communicating with the rest of the brain very well. The front part of the brain inhibits your amygdala, which is the fear center, right? That's your trauma center, basically, right? And so we know that the body keeps score. Great book, but also a great concept. Any traumas that you've dealt with, the brain and body are going to remember it.
Yes.
What's interesting about that is a lot of people that deal with dysautonomia and POTS and things like that, almost all have had some form of trauma in their life, whether it's something that happened to them, like when they were a kid, or like the medical trauma of nobody understanding their condition.
That can be so terrifying, that type of trauma, because you're literally have these appointments to go in and you're anxious about it, you're stressed out about it, you're thinking, oh no, another, thousands of dollars, but no answers, no help, and another referral. And you get to a point where you're just hopeless, and that just increases all of the problems that you have.
And and you guys who have been down that road for so long, you become like your own provider in a way, right?
You have to be. You have to.
So when you get here, one of the things that we tell our patients is, hey, your job is to just show up and be the patient now.
Yeah.
Like, we got you now.
Finally, that was so nice. It was like, I don't have to tell you, you knew. I wasn't trying to convince you of something.
Yeah.
You already knew.
Yeah.
You I could see it in your eyes. You could see it in mine. I was like, finally, someone who listens and is like getting what I'm saying, comprehending me, and has answers back that can help me.
Yeah. And, here in this office, we are very, I'll use the term blessed, to have gone through the training and had the experiences on our own that led us down the road to working with cases like this. Like this population of people who literally, there's literally nowhere to go in Arizona.
There isn't. There is nowhere to go in Arizona. Come to Dr. Team's office. There's nowhere else to go. You can go somewhere for testing. You can spend years just trying to get the testing. And no matter what tests you get, no matter how many places you go to, they're not going to be able to offer you any help.
That's crazy.
They're not going to be able to do anything but put you on more medications, more side effects, and give you endless bills that never end. You never get better that way. Yeah. Here you can get better. Here you can have hope.
Can I drop this mic? Can I drop this? Boom. Right? There we go. Mic drop. Thank you for saying that. We appreciate it. It's
absolutely,
because I think our big competitors are these massive hospitals, these giant neurological centers,
absolutely.
Mayo, Banner, Barrows.
They are.
And we don't have the budget to really market accordingly. We can't really market because, we're just a lonely little chiropractor over here.
But they're diagnosing, they're not helping, they're not getting people's quality of life back. And they're not giving them hope, they're just giving them a diagnosis or a result of a test. Yeah. And that's not a way to live. That makes people lose hope. It makes their situation get worse. It affects their family, it affects their jobs, it affects their quality of life. They don't have any quality of life left.
kind of like the bad news bears, right? They're the misfits of
Right.
the baseball world.
Yeah.
And then they finally get a coach that's willing to work with them, and they turns out they win the World Series, right? So they have all the talent, right? Almost every one of these nervous systems that come in here all have the capabilities of firing at that 90 to 100%. Most people just don't know how to help reintegrate all those parts of the brain so that people can thrive again.
I didn't know. I had to come here to get help. I didn't know what to do. I
And
could
now what are
figure
you
out
doing?
what I thought was wrong with me, but I didn't know even if I thought what it was.
You could get the perfect diagnosis, but then
Right.
it's like the rehab aspect or the exercise aspect of it. Most people have no clue.
There's no rehab anywhere else. There's no rehab anywhere else. I've done the research. I've done 13 years. You cannot get help anywhere else. You can get bills. You can get shuffled around, and you can get frustrated.
Which adds to the problem
Right.
of that fight or flight response, right?
So if you're
So like the whole while you're just getting worse and worse, not
You are.
necessarily because the condition itself is worsening, but there's so much frustration associated with
Driving
the
it.
journey that you're like, like you start losing hope.
yes, absolutely.
But now you're at a point where, are you back to work?
I am working multiple businesses right now.
Love it.
Running my own businesses, doing what I love, helping my clients, helping people build their businesses, and working with people that I have relationships with for many, many, many years. So that was one thing I was worried about losing was my working relationships.
And you're clearly a social butterfly, so like that's a big piece of your recharge too, right?
I think you guys bring it out of me, Doc.
But the other thing, now that you've had the experience that you did have here, you've got a lot of your health back, but you also know people who are struggling too, right? We've got someone who you help bring in when you're not working.
Yeah, I can see it in other people now. And I
You just
see
know?
it because I know, because I'm looking at them and I'm saying that was me. But it doesn't have to be like that. There's help. I've walked up to people and said, "Look, I think that you might have something wrong with your autonomic nervous system." I said, "I'm not a doctor, but if you feel like these things are affecting you, I know somebody that can help you. I see you struggling. When you stood up, you almost passed out." I said, "I recognize that because I've lived it. So I know it." So when I see other people and I see them struggling now, I ask them, "Do you want some help? Like, I know somebody can get some help."
That's awesome. She's like a walking billboard for us. I love it.
But it's rewarding also to be able to give people some
Hope. Yeah, absolutely.
And like you said, I sent one of my friends here, and
It's been, 4 weeks or so?
and she's not in a wheelchair now. She's up and walking. She's going back to church. She's spending time with her family downstairs. She was bedridden. She was in the hospital. She was on all kinds of medications, and she was really losing hope, and it was affecting every single part of her life, just like it affected every part of mine.
So I just love seeing her in here because the first day was like tremoring and just wiped out. Now it's just all smiles all day, right, Ree?
And that's
She's
her real personality.
Oh my God, it's so the transition to see that is just amazing. When people they get over that hump of like not being able to heal, and all of a sudden they recognize when their body is actually doing what it's designed to do.
And they're happy again.
Yeah, like
It
you
brings
might
you
not be
so
100,
much
You
joy.
might not be 100% in 4 weeks. Like I wouldn't expect that from anyone dealing with this stuff.
No.
But 20% in 4 weeks compared to a negative 40% in 5 years.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
a
I mean,
huge.
that's-
You see a huge change in
That's
a
so cool.
small amount of time, and it gives you hope and encourages you to keep going.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell people about it, because I want them to find the hope that I
Yeah.
found. Because especially in the chronic pain community, a lot of people give up. They end their lives. They don't have any hope left. They're tired of it affecting the ones they love, because a lot of things that people go through, they can deal with it. But what they can't deal with is how it affects those that they care about. And that was a lot of my struggle as well. But you don't have to live like that. There's hope. There's help. You can get help.
Yeah. And it's not like psychological help that a lot of people need, right? I mean, it might be a part of the puzzle.
That's what
But,
Barlow
like-
told me I needed to go see a psychiatrist. And I literally wept. I ugly cried in the elevator. I mean, I call it
Ugly
an
cry.
ugly cry. I bawled in the elevator, and my husband just held me, and I just cried and cried. And he said, "What's wrong, honey? They don't think you have epilepsy." And I said, "No, I don't think I do either. But there's still something wrong that's not being addressed, and I'm still not getting any help."
Yeah.
And so I know that level of frustration where you get to the point where you're ready to give up.
Yeah. It's a scary place. You know, a long time ago, actually a patient very similar to this. A lot of you guys are a very similar presentation, right? This particular person had been through the ringer. They were probably mid-30s, late 30s, maybe early 40s, living with mom and dad, or mom.
Oh, that's terrible.
And, you know, this person comes in, we do an evaluation. This is probably 7-8 years ago. She comes in, super sweet individual, but you know, it's just, you can tell she's trying so hard to put that face on.
Yeah.
Because when you get into the case and she tells you how she's feeling, you're like, I don't know how much longer you can tolerate this. And I was like, you know what? Like, I know we can help. You just got to give me some time. It's going to take some time to unwind a lot of this nervous system crap that you're dealing with. So, so we set them up, got ready to start the program, saw one visit, and the second visit they didn't make it. And so we call them, and we found out that her medications, she had overdosed on her own, on all the medications that she had. And so it was kind of like at that point in time, that was when it was like, all right, how do we get in front of people sooner so that we can make changes in their lives so that this doesn't happen?
I'm so sorry that happened.
And it's like, I'll never forget it. I still have, she
there's
gave
no
me
way
a
you could.
picture of,
There's no way you could.
she gave me a picture of herself, like in her old days. I still have the picture somewhere. I have it in storage with some other
Memories.
keepsakes, so to speak. And like, there's a reason behind all this, you know? It's just tough sometimes.
But there's more than one reason, because that lady lost her life, unfortunately. But there's lots of other lives you're saving. You saved mine. I'm terribly sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
But I want you to have faith. Like, keep doing what you're doing,
Yeah.
because there's people out there like me that still need the help.
Kleenex.
Sorry.
We're both leaking. So
Sorry.
we should start putting some right over here, because some of these kind of, the
What
eyes
a-
start to leak a little bit. But,
That's
you
a
know,
heck of
and
a
that's
thing,
important,
though.
right? And that's, you're telling me what we tend to teach and coach is, you know, the negatives can be all consuming, but the positives are so much more powerful because you can have more and more of them, you know? And so
Thank
thank
you.
you for reminding me.
Thank you, Dr. Teams.
But
What
yeah,
you're doing is
there's
incredible, and we just, like you said, need to be able to get in front of people sooner so that we can
Yeah.
help them before they're at a give up stage, or where their body is so bad that they're coming in a wheelchair.
Yeah. And that's part of what this podcast is about, you know? Like we say, biohacking complex neuro conditions and chronic pain. Basically, it's like, hey, let's see if we can help get you your life back. You know, so anybody who's listening, watching, anything like that, I would love, and I think we would love, and Mattie would love, for you to share this with someone that
Please.
you feel might be struggling, even if you're not sure.
Please,
You know?
PTSD, it affects your nervous system. MS, it affects your nervous system.
Yeah.
Stress can kill you.
Yes.
It affects your nervous system. If you see someone struggling, tell them, hey, call Dr. Teams. He'll get you a consult, and these people will help you. There's hope. There's help. You just got to give them a call.
Oh my gosh. I think I might just have you on as a resident podcaster, because you're crushing it so much here. Thank you so much.
I usually am on the other side of the screen as a photographer.
Right.
So
That's
I'm
too
not used
funny.
to this at all.
That's too
But
funny.
I'm just being totally honest, because
And you have
like
a
you said,
powerful
I
message.
want people to find help.
Yeah. And I mean, I appreciate you trusting us, essentially with your life and now with your friends. And so if there's anything that I can do to help anybody else, you just let us know.
I
Myself, Dr. Rachel, Rihanna, Jess, Amanda, Kathy, like everybody is highly trained,
and compassionate.
as well as highly empathetic, compassionate, and they
patient.
care.
They're patient with you too.
Our code words are like tugs at the heartstrings kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we mentioned it, I think, on the last podcast, but like we'll take every quarter, usually we'll accept a scholarship case. So somebody who absolutely cannot afford it, and they're like, I'm stuck. I can't do anything.
I think that's so important,
right?
especially in today's...
Because most people are working.
Yeah, they're working, and then when they're out of work, they don't have that money or any expendable income that they can put towards the extra costs for healthcare.
Right.
And I think that's why it's so important that you do have that scholarship, and that you can reach out to people that are on fixed incomes or caregivers for others and cannot make it in to get care for themselves.
Yeah. And so, like, you and I have been chit-chatting a little about the nonprofit, or, hoping that we can generate that people who are very resourceful or who have the things that can support other people, they can donate to hopefully our charity or our nonprofit, and that allows them to get the treatment that they need.
I'm very confident that we can.
And so
that we'll be able to expand there, reach more people, help people, save lives, literally change people's lives, improve so many spouses and kids and parents' lives for their kids too. Right. I mean, the kids suffer when the parents are sick.
It's kind of cliche, right? But make the world better one person at a time kind of thing. I like to think of it as you help one person, you just helped 5. Because your life impacts 5 others, and they see you better, it's going to help them feel better.
There are at least 5 people right away I knew that the treatment could help right away.
Yeah.
I said there are, just the support groups that I've been in, people with fibromyalgia, severe migraines. It's the lack of blood flow a lot of times. The breathing can push the forced breathing, and the training can make all that circulation change and really change how you function.
So just saw somebody recently, I think it was within the last week, we're going through the history. They're basically standing up, they get dizzy, tunnel vision, almost blackout. They'll black out every once in a while, but that's the person that gets dizzy and has to sit down 12 times a day.
Yeah.
Right? They're taking care of their kid, special needs, right? So it's a caretaker as well.
Oh, wow.
And as we're going through the history, I'm getting ready to start like, hey, here's what we found. And I make a comment, and she goes, oh, yeah, well, I have migraines too. I'm like, what do you mean you? So she has to go to this person has to go to the chiropractor every single week. If they miss it, they get a migraine. So like chiropractic in that sense is beneficial,
Absolutely.
But it's not necessarily the answer, because you'll have to do that the rest of your life in order to make these things go away. So
we all have to do maintenance, but you're right. It's not going to...
Maintaining your health is one thing, right?
Right, but you're not going to get to a point where you actually find relief.
Right, like maintaining 60% function is a means to an end.
Yeah,
right.
That's
so
tough.
With our office, when we look at the eyes, your balance, and your coordination, and like really understand what the pathways are doing in the integration, we're able to say, hey, your eyes aren't working, specifically XYZ, and that's causing tightness in your neck, or that's causing your neck to be off. So that's requiring the chiropractor to have to adjust you to try to stabilize your system a little bit each week.
Exactly. There's a reason why you're off.
If you rewire the whole system and you calm that system down so it comes back closer to that rest, digest, and that you reduce the fight or flight, like it'll repair on its own. So then you might need a chiropractor because you went and hiked South Mountain,
but not because
you just woke up and walked, went to your kid's appointment, And so it's just it's very important for us to get that message across, that the more stable that your nervous system is, the more stable your life is going to be. Right?
Absolutely. It affects and impacts every single thing from your head to your feet.
So rest, digest, and repair versus fight, flight, or freeze. Which one do you want? That's what we help you get towards.
Absolutely, the prior.
So I think we're running out of time here. This is a little bit longer. We can just talk for days and hours about this stuff. And I really appreciate you sitting down with us and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me today, and please share it with somebody,
So,
help someone else.
real quick with photography, if anybody's looking for a wonderful photographer, how does somebody get in touch with you?
They can reach out on my Facebook. It's facebook.com/M like Mattie, N like Nicole, M like Mallory, photoart.com.
And so we'll plug that link down below so you guys can get in touch with her for any of your needs there. And then if you need to get in touch with us, give us a call, 480-674-9199. You can shoot us an email through our website at desertbrainandspine.com. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Apparently, we're on TikTok too. I think it's at desertbrainandspine.com. It's all one word. So
And no matter how you guys reach out, they always get back. I know because I'll email them one day, I'll text them another, I'll call them another, and they always are on top of getting back to you, always.
we know that people need help out there, so we're on top of it. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for
I
having
hope
me.
you guys got something out of this out there and listening and watching land. And this is a NeuroReset podcast. I'm Dr. Teams, and we'll see you next time.